Throughout my many years creating videos, I've been accused of many different things. Everything from racism to transphobia. I've even been accused of pushing some sort of grand gay agenda. I've been accused of it all. But today, I'm going to be accused of something I've never been accused of before. And that is supporting grooming. You heard that correctly, but I want to make it very clear up front that grooming is bad and I do not support it. Crazy I even have to say that, but it buys me some time. But what I also think is bad is accusing somebody of grooming when there's absolutely no facts to back it up. And I'm very confident that by the end of this video, you're going to be on my side of this situation as well. Today, we are going to be discussing one of the most controversial animators to come to YouTube in the past few years. A user whose animations, despite looking very playful and childish, are so explicit, I can show barely any of them in this video. These animations have caused many different people to accuse the creator of many different things, including making animations with the sole purpose of grooming children. This animator is a user by the name of Chim Potty, and as of the recording of this video, they have been banned from nearly every social media platform as a result of the accusations against them. But what's actually going on here? Is Chim Potty actually an animator who's attempting to groom children? Or is all of this some sort of big misunderstanding? So, I started digging into this topic. And I was even able to get in contact with the man behind Chim Potty, who was more than open about everything going on with him and his animations. So please, join me as today we are discussing the truth behind YouTube's most controversial animator, Chim Potty. And trust me, this is going to be a controversial video. So I think the best place to start this story is to tell you guys how I found out about Chim Potty in the first place. On the night of November 10th, I was scrolling X when I came across a post that YouTube support had responded to, which said the following. Can people please spam report this account? The animations and songs are blatant attempts of child grooming into making kids think sexual acts with adults are okay at young ages, so they're easier to target. Alongside a screenshot of an X page of a user by the name of Chim Potty. They then followed up that post by saying, they have a YouTube channel as well where they post more gross videos like these. Equally shocked and interested by this, I decided to go to the YouTube channel of Chim Potty to see these animations for myself. I was met with a page with 400,000 subscribers and some very interesting animations. These animations were music videos to original songs which were very, very explicit. I have to be very careful with how I describe these animations, but let me just say this. The characters in these animations were very curiously designed to resemble private parts in one way or another. The most popular character in these videos is this character, a cute, innocent little axolotl. I mean, it's so cute. How on earth could this be so explicit? Well, the axolotl likes to enter into small crevices and then exit a small crevice, and then enter again and exit again. I can't say what the axolotl does after it's done going in and out, but I'll just say it paints a very explicit picture. While there were plenty of other characters, including explicit knockoff versions of Mickey and Minnie, and these two mushroom characters, the male of which has a very long nose and the female having a vertical mouth, it was very clear that the axolotl was their most popular character. But when I say popular, I kind of mean infamous, as I realized I wasn't the only person who was discovering Chim Potty for the first time, since there were plenty of comments from people who were, again, accusing Chim Potty of very dark things. Now I admit, these videos were very, very weird, but I didn't see anything in terms of, I didn't see anything in terms of grooming, so I started to look deeper into the topic because maybe there was something I was missing. And I quickly found their Instagram page, which was home to plenty of their animations. And seeing as how I usually like to let every party tell their side of the story, I left a comment on their most recent post in an attempt to get in contact with them. And at that point, I finally went to bed. I woke up the next day still curious as to what exactly was happening with Chim Potty. And when I went to my phone to see if there was any updates, I saw a tweet from the original poster of this tweet, which said the following. Hell yes. Thank you, everyone. Sadly, they still have their YouTube/TikTok accounts up, and I think the other mushroom Twitter one, but this is a massive W. Make sure they don't come back. This was accompanied by a screenshot of the official ChimPotty X account, which was now suspended. So it seemed as if this user, I'm going to pronounce it Strawby, had achieved her goal. And when I revisited the original post, I realized that the tweet thread contained plenty of additional information, all of which was the evidence against Chim Potty. There were threads accusing the axolotl of being linked to pet rings, as well as someone even saying their 8-year-old cousin was groomed by the animations. Also, Strawby had responded to people about the topic, including saying these videos were marked for kids. But the two most serious things I found were the following. One was this picture of a little toy model of the Chim Potty mushroom character, which was held in such a way that it was near a child. The other thing, which was the biggest piece of evidence against Chim Potty, was a screenshot of one of his tweets that, when translated, said the following. My dick got hot when I heard about the boy in lower grades of elementary school who made the potty song popular at school. Next, I want to create a song that the child can enjoy to the fullest. This tweet is wild for pretty obvious reasons, and I could see why anybody would find it problematic, which they definitely did. It seemed as if there were countless people on Twitter talking about Chim Potty and his animations, and nobody had anything nice to say. To this specific section of X, Chim Potty was public enemy number 1. However, Chim Potty was well aware of the rumblings about him. In that same night, he would upload a new video. The title of the video roughly translates to, "My content went viral overseas and as a result, my account got suspended." However, this translation might be somewhat incorrectly translated, seeing as how online translators aren't the most reliable. Either way, this video featured both the mushroom characters and spent the entire video highlighting the tweet from Strawby and responding to the accusations made. It also featured them showing that their videos were in fact not marked for kids, and showed the average viewer age was between 18 and 44. The main thing that this video focused on was the fact that the ring accusations made against them was not only baseless, but just downright not truthful. They took some time to explain that people overseas, quote, go crazy at the mere mention of child grooming, and what I assume he means by this is that once somebody mentions child grooming, all bets are off and everybody's just going to dogpile on the person being accused of it. He finished the video talking about how he was considering getting a lawyer involved due to the accusations against him, which he felt resulted in the termination of his Twitter account. X account, I'm bad at that. People on X began talking about the response video, including Strawby, who posted a long rant amongst several tweets. Now, I won't go through the entire rant as it's just too long for this video, but Strawby did say that they were just a kid who was a victim of grooming themselves, and they were genuinely afraid of what legal action could come from what they said. But the thing that stood out to me was the fact that Strawby stated that even if it wasn't meant for kids, kids would still see it. And that's what started to bother me about the situation. Chim Potty was being accused of grooming, and grooming is defined as the act of deliberately training or preparing someone for that bad stuff. Yet the person who originally accused him of grooming is openly admitting that he's not deliberately making videos for children. They were openly understanding and practically agreeing that Chim Potty wasn't deliberately making videos for children. I know I said that twice, but I want to drive that point home. I then got on Instagram and I was surprised to learn that Chim Potty had followed me back. So at this point, I shot him a message with a handful of questions I had and figured I would just wait for a response. And at 8 a.m. the next morning, this happened. Now, I want it to be known that at this point, I was communicating with him via translation apps, so some of the responses from him are in broken English, so I took the liberty of just cleaning them up, but I haven't changed any of the sentiments or anything he was trying to say. Chim Potty began by explaining that they've been an animator for 4 years at this point, and that they are a one-man band when it comes to making the videos, and that they also create all the music featured in the animations. But I know these questions aren't what you're interested in, so I dove in head first. I asked why he decides to make such explicit animations, to which he responded in short, "I have liked such manga and games since childhood." However, my follow-up question got a little bit more out of him, as I asked him what he has to say to people who label his videos as for children or advertising to children, and ultimately followed it up by asking how he responds to being called a alpha. I enjoy creating cute characters. I understand that this can be perceived as child-friendly by some people. I don't intend for children to watch, but I create with caution to avoid causing shock or negative influence if they do happen to see it. Additionally, I prefer tall and slender women, so being considered a alpha is bothersome. He also discussed how blocking him or hiding the channel would suffice for people who don't like his content, instead of taking his accounts away from him. He also said he had plans to not only continue creating content, but branching out from just videos. My first conversation with Chim Potty ended with the following. Some of my Japanese music videos have English translations, so I hope you will watch them. Please understand that the translation is mostly done by AI, so it is not very good. And that was the end of my conversation with Chim Potty. I now had a little bit more insight into the man behind Chim Potty, and I have to admit, I was finding it really hard to believe that he had anything to do with rings or grooming or any of that. Instead, I felt as if this was just a guy who had a weird sense of humor and liked making explicit animations. I decided I was going to let the story marinate for a week or two as I did more research into Chim Potty. I also wanted to let the smoke settle from his Twitter suspension. Listen, Chim Potty has 400,000 subscribers on his YouTube page. I figured it was going to be pretty easy for him to bounce back from his X suspension, so I wasn't worried at all, and I figured I would just come back in a week or two to see what I had missed. Well, only 8 hours after my initial conversation with Chim Potty, I got another message from him, which said the following. Chim Potty's YouTube channel had been deleted. Seeing as how I was his only English-speaking friend who had any insight into what was happening, he started to ask me questions, asking me if rings actually exist and if those accusations would be enough to delete his profile. Now, this is a man who had been accused of being involved in, quote, a gross ring, asking me if rings are even a real thing. I then asked him what happened from his perspective, and Chim Potty responded with the following. Regarding the content of the video, no video has ever been deleted for violating guidelines. There were only 3 videos that had age restrictions. There were also a number of videos that were reviewed by people and monetized by advertising, so I was not aware that there were problems with the content. Then, yesterday, 2 of my videos were suddenly deleted for violating the guidelines, and today, many videos were determined to be violating the guidelines and the channel was deleted. If the management had made a sound decision from the beginning, they could have released a different type of video, but I can't forgive them for suddenly changing their criteria. He also included the official reason he got from YouTube for why his channel was shut down, and I can't really read it out loud in his video, but you can see it on the screen right now. And I found the reason interesting because I had watched basically all of Chim Potty's videos, and not once did I see any characters who were depicted as a minor. Now granted, when you have a woman in this animation style, people might automatically assume they are a minor, but I don't think this woman is a minor, or at least I don't see her as such. I guess what I should say is that it never depicted a minor in a way that I was able to say, yeah, that is a minor. What I believe actually happened was YouTube saw the animation style, and despite it not actually being for kids, it was so close to a child's animation style that any sexualization at all would make YouTube believe that it was meant for kids. And instead of seeing the juxtaposition, people saw evil, and YouTube did too. And as a result, Chim Potty lost his channel. Chim Potty didn't make any public comments on the situation besides one new piece of artwork. So there's a huge debate that can be had on if Chim Potty's animations were actually in violation of the specific policy I showed in the last section, but there were still 3 pieces that needed to be settled. 1, the accusations of grooming. 2, that picture. And 3, that tweet. Now, obviously, these three things are irredeemable. And frankly, there's no possible way I could sit here and try to defend him, especially that tweet. Right? Well, I actually did some research on these three topics, and I think I might be able to change your mind, especially that tweet. So let's start with the grooming allegations. Obviously, a tweet like this is cause for concern, and in no way am I attempting to take away from the person who tweeted this. I went ahead and asked Chim Potty his opinion on the topic. I would feel responsible if she had drawn a picture of an axolotl vomiting, but that's not the case. She must have seen this kind of elsewhere. I don't know if posts like this are true or false. Chim Potty is basically saying there's no way to prove that his animations are the cause of what the child drew, and full disclaimer, that's not the argument I would have chose, but nonetheless, that's his response. Personally, I can understand why this person would blame Chim Potty for what happened, but in the same breath, I don't feel as if creators should have to censor their artwork just because a child might see it. I personally take the stance that it's not a creator's job to parent these kids. Yet, I can also understand the argument that these videos were in YouTube Shorts, making them easier for a kid to access. Yeah, I can see both sides of this, but the one thing I can't see is any proof here that Chim Potty is grooming. Grooming is a deliberate act, and as Chim Potty has proven in his videos, he is not deliberately trying to make children watch them. My heart truly goes out to the person who posted this original tweet. It's a very unfortunate situation, but it isn't evidence of grooming. Now, let's discuss this picture. In my opinion, this picture is the first thing that could point towards anything to do with grooming or just some darker plan for Chim Potty. A picture of his mushroom figure in public prospectively creeping on a little girl. Even worse, the text at the top of this picture states, "Where is it?" I admit this is very weird. But what was Chim Potty's reaction when I asked him about it? I laughed because there were so many people making a fuss about this photo, even though it was an innocent photo. There were a lot of children on this day, so no matter where you took the photo, you would probably see them. It seemed as if Chim Potty wasn't aware that the problem wasn't just the fact that there were kids in the picture, but where the mushroom character is in relation to the child. Now let's remember, this is a man who didn't know if rings actually existed. Could it be possible that Chim Potty doesn't understand how the placement of the character in this picture could be problematic? Could it be possible that Chim Potty is just kinda dumb in this area? So just to acknowledge the other side, he could very well be purposely ignoring the placement of the toy in relation to the girl, but even if that's the case, that's not evidence of grooming or rings or anything like that. The only thing it would prove is that he has a very weird, warped sense of humor. So with all that said, let's finally discuss this tweet. And believe it or not, this tweet actually has the best explanation of any of these three topics. So much so that by the end of what I'm about to say, you're not going to be able to use it as an argument against Chim Potty. I promise, I'm not lying, just listen. So this is the official text originally sent in that tweet by Chim Potty. And when translated, the opening line says something explicit. I once more asked Chim Potty about this, and he responded with this message. Now, it took me a minute to understand what he was exactly trying to say, but when I did finally get it, my mind was blown. Basically, there's a specific line of text, this text to be exact, that when translated, depending on the context, could actually translate to different things. If you've been paying attention to this video, you might have noticed earlier I said this. However, this translation might be somewhat incorrectly translated, seeing as how online translators aren't the most reliable. The reason I said that is because that's what happened in this tweet. I know it sounds crazy to somebody who only speaks English, but this text can have different meanings depending on the context in which it's used. Chim Potty wasn't saying anything explicit. Instead, he was saying it made his heart warm. And to give you more evidence that this is the case, I was able to get an amazing translator to back me up on this. Not a human one though. I tried desperately to get an actual Japanese-born person to help me out in this section, and the only response I ever got was someone telling me they'd, quote, Never work with someone like me. I don't really know what that meant. I mean, a simple no could have sufficed, but whatever. So instead, I got ChatGPT to give me a lesson in language. Now, before you write off ChatGPT as a translator, it should be known that ChatGPT is really, really good at translating, especially when going from a foreign language to English. I asked ChatGPT to translate the original tweet Chim Potty sent out, and this was the response. I heard a story about an elementary school boy in lower grades who made Potty's song popular at school, and it got me excited. Now, I want to create a song that he can thoroughly enjoy. Yeah, that's what Chim Potty was trying to say. Yet Google Translate got it very, very wrong. The AI went on to explain how a translator could get the translation incorrect, which is too wordy for me to explain, so pause it here and read this text if you're curious, but ultimately summed it up by saying, machine translation algorithms don't always grasp the subtleties accurately, leading to unintended and inappropriate translations. I finished with one final very important question. Did the AI believe that Chim Potty meant it in an explicit way or not? In the provided entry, the context suggests a non-explicit interpretation. This phrase is likely used metaphorically to express excitement or enthusiasm rather than a more explicit meaning. The overall context, discussing a story about a young elementary schoolboy making a song popular at school and the desire to create a song for his enjoyment, supports this interpretation. So with this new knowledge, we can officially say this tweet is not evidence of anything weird at all, and that leaves us with just these two things. And while these two things might be problematic for you, we can all agree that these two things are absolutely not any sort of proof on anything to do with grooming or rings. Therefore, any reasonable person could say that there is absolutely no evidence against Chim Potty being guilty of what he has been accused of. So now I want to take a few minutes to say my final piece, not only for the people watching this, but the people involved in this story. So first things first, people are probably going to ask why I chose to defend Chim Potty. Well, this guy has had an angry mob coming for his head for several weeks now, and nobody's taken the time to try to understand his side of the story. I also want to make it clear that I usually do reach out to all the different parties in this story. However, with Strawby, I decided not to. Strawby's account makes it very clear that they are a minor and they've had bad personal experiences with grooming. And I figured being a 26-year-old guy messaging them, asking them about the Chim Potty situation probably wouldn't have been the smartest thing to do. So yeah, that's why I didn't message them. But if Strawby decides to comment on this video, I will pin the comment and I will respond, but I didn't want to be the one to initiate the contact. Strawby, if you're watching this video right now, I don't blame you for making the original tweets. You believed everything you were doing was correct, and I can't blame you for that in the slightest. I guess the only thing I didn't agree with was you suggesting that Chim Potty was involved in rings or grooming with absolutely no information to suggest that. I just hope you or anybody in your shoes will realize how serious that accusation is, and you can really mess up somebody's life with an accusation like that. And while I'm talking about this, I did try to reach out to one user who didn't seem to be a minor, but they never reached back out to me. But not long after that, my channel ended up getting its very first guideline strike. And that same day, I got a message from somebody on X who was basically threatening me and telling me I was a supporter of grooming and that they were going to do anything in their power to shut my channel down. Now, I'm not going to share their name in this video because they don't deserve the clout of being named in a Kobe Sucks video, but I just found it interesting how seriously people were taking the situation. But they think grooming is happening, so obviously they're going to take it that serious. I just hope that person and anybody on that side gives what I'm saying a chance. I understand there might be 14-year-old armies coming after me now on X, and I can handle it. I'm a big boy. But what I'm just trying to say is that accusing somebody like Chim Potty of grooming and rings takes away from the severity of people who are actually involved in grooming and rings. And finally, I admit I am now somewhat acquainted with Chim Potty, But I don't know what's going on in here. I don't know the guy personally, okay? So if something else comes out down the line, okay, that's what it is. But with all the evidence we currently have, there is just nothing to suggest that Chim Potty is a groomer. He might be a fucking weirdo, and he might be a fucking pervert, but that's not illegal. If you don't like a YouTuber, don't watch them. If you feel the need to post about them, do it. But what you shouldn't do is accuse somebody of something when there's no evidence to support your claims.
It's not a game, it's a